Oh, just wait, see who turns up. So, recording is starting, so I guess I should probably start talking, but we're not going to start the lesson for another few minutes. We'll give it in the hour, because that's when we said we were going to start it. We're going to go over very, very basic stuff for FCing. FCing is kind of one of those things where you can put an awful lot of effort into it, and you can be very good. You can be very mechanically fast. You can be very wise and strategic and know a lot about the game and exploit that to make win conditions for yourself. And you can just be kind of a more of a this beats that, and just know certain matchups and just play those matchups well. So there's all sorts of different kinds of, that's all the PvP stuff. And then for PvE, it's all to do with kind of getting those perfect message of the days, getting that routine right, and getting the expected learn, so that when the unexpected happens, you react nicely and can help your fleet out. You'll end up being the focal point of people's attention, so it's typically people who are slightly extroverted who will be FCs, but you can be an introverted FC, and generally you'll find that those FCs are the ones who fit the more specific fleet stuff. So maybe your bomber FCs can be quite particular sometimes, if they're doing bomb runs, but not always. I mean, there's not a rule. You don't have to be extroverted, you don't have to be introverted to do any of these things. It's just part of it. Oh my god, Tingler's live. It's not often. That's probably somebody who is a friend of mine from real life. Or just, I think some people have got the channel saved. Can I join your fleet? I can fly a pilot. So the fleet's not going to be doing or going anywhere. This is more of a lesson where I'm going to show you things on the screen and show you the kind of basic mechanics of how you operate a fleet. It will be sucking eggs for anyone who's run a fleet before, anyone who's kind of comfortable with basic fleet stuff. It's not going to teach you anything about really specifics of how doctrines work against each other or anything like that. It's not going to teach you a step-by-step do this and you will get here. It's more going to be generally, this is what I've seen while I've been in Horde, this is what I personally have experienced, these are the little tips and tricks that I've learned. And there's been loads of different FCs in Horde since I've been here. I've been here 2 and a bit years, maybe nearly 3, and they've come up through different routes, and they've gone at it in different strategies, and they've achieved different levels of success. And I'd say there's been FCs with loads of different strategies who've achieved really well and been really good. Being a good team player is a big thing, and I think that I say all of the FCs I've FC'd with in Horde who've been given kind of the basic kind of entry-level FC access have all been team players at their core. I think we have personality differences because there's loads of us. There's I don't know how many there is on the board at the moment, but I think it was something like 70 who can honk, and that's they don't give everyone honk rights because you kind of don't need to, but there comes a point where there's always someone online to honk, so you don't really need to keep giving out honk rights. And that's just the honk people, so they all will FC at some point. So there's probably tons of FCs who are just dormant, who are just kind of a bit busy in real life. So yeah, I need a few more minutes, but feel free to start. Hello. I am in a voice channel on Horde. I'm in classroom 1, and that's just a little bit for ease of questions. I will say try and save the questions till the end. So we'll probably do about 30 minutes, maybe 45 of me kind of talking. Hi mate, I'm just talking on Twitch as well. So I'm just...
Oh, you're talking on Twitch. Sorry, I thought we have to go to this classroom.
No, it's fine. We'll just use the classroom for question and answer later if you want to talk on it, but you can ask questions on Twitch or here. It's just to open up more options for people.
Okay, so basically it's just like a Twitch thing.
Mainly, yeah.
All right, I see.
But I know that some people won't have access to Twitch and stuff like that, but I'm going to be... I wonder if I can... Maybe I can just push to talk for the whole time. Yeah, I'll probably just push to talk so you can hear me as well if you want to. Because I know people don't have Twitch.
No, I think Twitch is fine for me because I have to go walk the dog anyways, and I can like watch the stream while I'm walking the dog.
Right. Well, yeah, just in case. So, I'll just keep chatting because I think Fim wanted to watch the whole thing, so I'm going to give him a minute or two more. A minute's fine. And I'll just talk a bit more generally. So, generally speaking, fleets in Horde are split into either PvP or PvE. The PvE is quite varied. You've got people who are going and doing incursion fleets. That's quite an organised fleet. Occasionally you'll see lessons from the MBIs. There'll be fleet commanding newbies in like ratting fleets and stuff like that. And you've got the mining fleet, which is the mining fleet FC is going to be kind of watching the grid, trying to warp off if hostiles are coming, trying to keep people safe, but generally they're there for like helping people out and doing question and answer and making sure that the boosts are still up and kind of doing backgroundy stuff more than actively doing FCing stuff. On the PvP side, you've got we have obviously the 3 channels. We've got strategic, we've got home defense, and we've got pings. Strategic is for these big fleets where we're going to go and contest essentially structures or maybe the iHubs and the control of systems. That can be defensive, and it can also not necessarily be structures. If a big enemy fleet is coming through to our space or allied space and causing problems, we might ping a strategic fleet just because the level of ISK and the level of effort required is that of a strategic nature. It's going to be like 20 billion ISK plus, and we're going to try and push them back or attack them in their space and not necessarily going for a direct objective. Home defense is, we have a home defense FC channel, but but anyone can ping in home defense still, I think. I'm not sure about that because my Discord is obviously mine and I can't tell, but I think anyone can. And it's basically if someone's attacking like an Antiplex, like if there's 20 Kikimoras attacking an Antiplex and for some reason standing can't deal with it, you could say, right, well, we're going to go and ping, and we can, if you're a newer FC, you might want to ping something more simple, maybe like something like T1 cruisers, like Caracals or Stabbers, whatever was within your skill set. And then the more experienced home defense FCs can go all the way up to full kind of battlecruiser fleets, maybe even, I think if we're starting to use battleships, it's kind of moving into the strategic area, but yeah. And then you've got your normal pings channel, which the big difference between normal pings and home defense, you can ping defending the home in normal pings, and that might be more of a bring your own ship. If it dies, I might not be able to arrange ship replacement. It's more of a fun thing. It's more like there's loads of harpies here, let's go and see if we can fight them in our harpies, that kind of thing. If you see a ping in normal pings, the assumption is it's not going to be SRP'd. It's completely open for sure. The whole point of Horde is that we open up the game to newer players, so anyone can ping in there. And all really the advice when you do those pings is just to try and follow like a format. So you want to be, first of all, you have to put at everyone, otherwise no one will see your ping. And then you want to start with the most useful information for the fleet. So it's kind of, what are you doing? Like maybe you'll put goon harpies, forming harpies, and then you can put underneath that the specifics, and you could put fleet FC, because that's the first thing on the fleet window here is the FC, so that's the first thing people might look for. So you maybe put your character name, and then you can put the fleet name, second thing they see, and then that way you can just confirm that they're in the right spot. And then you can maybe put the doctrine if you don't mind it being visible to all of Horde. Sometimes people hide their doctrine because they want to make it slightly harder for people to infiltrate. They'd have to join the fleet to then see the doctrine. We'll talk about message of the days and things like that. And then you might want to put specific things. So sometimes people will know that their fleet composition needs a lot of interdiction, needs a lot of bubblers, and they maybe have not had bubblers on their last few fleets. So they might say, right guys, please give me bubblers, you know, maybe to the point some people say, look, I'll give you a bubbler for free, just please bring me bubblers because it makes a big difference. That kind of thing. Sorry, I meant to attend the fleet, I heard bubblers. I think we've given Fim enough time. Oh, nice, and he just posted. So you've decided you want to run a fleet. There's a lot of stuff behind that which we're going to go into later, but I'm just going to show you a few mechanics just to get them out of the way at the beginning of the video, hopefully, if I can manage to upload it properly so that we can see exactly what we're doing. So you've got the fleet finder. You should understand roughly how this works already, but you've got my available fleets, court fleets, alliance fleets based on standing, and you want your fleet to show up to the people you want it to show up to. Typically, that's all of our friends as well, like NC and PL, Slice. And you need to be a bit careful with how you make your fleet for that to work, basically. So I'm just going to show you exactly how my fleet setup is. So you click Form Fleet. This is now a private fleet. Nobody can see this fleet. And you've got your little tabs here. So you've got the fleet window. You've got broadcasts, which you should know already. This is if you have a super carrier, you can see where it is, and it can use this module, and you can respawn there. It's very uncommonly used. This is all your formations. So normally we warp in a point, especially if we're going fast somewhere, or if we want to just land on somebody and gank them. Hunting fleets will typically be in a point. And then other things we can use, we can warp in a bubble, we can warp on a plane, on a horizontal and a vertical plane, or in an arrow. I've yet to see someone actually find a strategic use for this, but it does look pretty. And you can do relative formations, which is a rare one, but you can kind of put ships in front of the FC ship, and if I warp at the enemy fleet at 100, those ships that are in front of me will land closer, you know, relative to where you are. So maybe the enemy fleet's burning away from me at 5,000 meters a second, and I have guys who are 50k in front of me, which means that in 10 seconds the enemy fleet is going to be where those guys are if we warp at 0. That's roughly about the right amount of time. So maybe I'll put some tacklers in front of me at 50, we warp at the enemy fleet at 0, and the tacklers maybe land where the enemy fleet has now traveled to. That's the kind of logic behind that. You can use it for other things, but that's the main one I've seen it used for and work. Then we've got our fleet advert, which is what we wanted to talk about. So you go to create advert, and then this is pretty much, you just want to do exactly this. You can, oh, I've lost it, come back. You can change this around a little bit. The common things I will change is sometimes I'll only want a small fleet, so you can click this button and change the number. The example of one I've done recently is when I do the LP daily mission fleets, I'll restrict it to 10 because only 10 people can receive LP. And I'll do the LP reward and I'll say, right, everybody leave now, and we'll get a new 10 people in, that kind of thing. You can do application requires approval. All of these things are quite uncommon for Horde fleets because we're so open. But if you wanted to do very specific things, you can. This kind of stuff, I don't understand this well, but I know that if I have it set with my corporation on, my alliance on, minimum security status to 5, which I don't think affects anything if you have this tab and none of these on, base standings ticked on and good, and then that to 5, that will be visible to Horde and our allies, and that works. So let's open up our fleet window again, and then we go to find fleets, and we should be able to see our fleet now. We need to relog them. There you go. So there's my fleet. You guys have all seen fleets before, I guess, so that's good. You can go in here, you can edit the advert, remove the advert. The next few things we'll just run through on the fleet window is you might not have looked at these things before, but you've got fleet, wing and squad, and these are just tiers of command that you can use. So basically any ship below this, when I do a fleet warp, will get grabbed. So if I don't want to grab Tingler, maybe I move Kiss Meter here, and Kiss Meter warps everyone below him. Or maybe we don't want to move these two people, we put Kiss Meter here, and Kiss Meter warps everyone in squad 1. You can right click these and you can create new, so you can add in a squad. So you can make loads of subcommands, and that's useful if you're doing things like maybe you've got a wing of stealth bombers and you want to launch bombs from lots of directions, and you've got your 4 mates or maybe your 4 alt characters. They're all going to go to different points around the enemy fleet. So you could put 4 squads down, you could put your 4 squad commanders in, and then they could warp themselves to their 4 little locations all cloaked up. You say 3, 2, 1, and everyone just fires at the enemy fleet, and you've got 4 directions of bombs coming in. You can do it with tackle fleets as well. You can give, you can maybe put yourself here as the main fleet commander in squad 1, and then you could leave squad 2 as a tackle fleet. And because you're at the same point, you're not above the squad level, you'll only take squad 1 on your warps, and then maybe if Kissmeter was the tackle leader, he could take the tackle squad. And I think you've just seen there, if you're the boss, you can drag people and force them into those slots. If you look at these, this is the boss, and then this indicates which level of command you've got. So as we go up it, the chevrons just change a little bit. You can add in, so if you go to fleet, you can add in more wings, I believe. Yeah, there you go. And then if you name these wings, you can actually save this, but we'll talk about that in a second. So you can save this layout that you want, and standing fleet often, the standing fleet FCs often save the layout so that it's all set up ready, and as do the mining fleet and other different groups. This little icon here that Kissmeter has just shown us is a do not take warp icon. I think weirdly you can set it even if you're the fleet commander. Not weirdly, because that will be useful at times. But I've lost. There you go. So it's flag exempt from fleet warp, just stops you from warping. If you're a fleet commander, this would only be useful if you were using a character that you wanted to warp people with, but you didn't want to be in the main fight. So typically I might have a covert character that's looking at the grid. Maybe he's doing combat probing for me. I don't want him to warp into the middle of the fight, but I do want him to be able to warp me. So he might be in the command up here and he might warp everyone, that kind of thing. Alright, we'll just quickly run through the boring stuff. So regroup is very useful, and it's a new thing they've added. Basically you click that and the fleet will approach you. Very, very useful for grouping up everyone. Broadcast you should know about. Broadcast settings you should learn about in different lessons essentially. You can save your fleet setup, so that's essentially how this is laid out. You can save that. Like I said, you do need to name the wings, so the wings need to be named something special. And you can see here I've got lots of setups saved, so let's load columns, and it will load not just this, but it will also load the message of the day. So that is a big thing. So preparation is great. If you prepare a fleet properly, you can very quickly, especially for home defense, you can very quickly just go open fleet, fleet setups, bang, and you're ready. Oh, my picture's covering the window. Thank you, Kissmeter. That's a bit better, because we do need that window. So yeah, so you can see the message of the day there in the fleet chat. It's just loaded itself up straight away. If we want to change that message of the day, what we can do is we can not do that. We can go here and we can go channel settings, and that is how you make a message of the day. Various links and things like that. It works just like all of the chat things in the game. What you can do is you can either save the fleet setup completely, or you can go to your notepad and you can save the message of the days there. So there we've got the a Ratotech Ishka one, which is, I've not copy pasted, bear with me. That was my notepad, by the way. And there you go, and we've changed it there. You might notice that this second one has not got colours on it. You can actually edit the colours so that the default colour comes out as that little red, but you can change it to pink or whatever you want. When you click it, you'll be able to see it. A thing to remember with this channel is it's a little bit annoying sometimes with MOTD and how people's chat appears. So what you can do is you can put a little line there and it just gives you a little separation, and it means that your first message will always appear properly, you know. Rodney. Next up, we're going to go show fleet composition. What you can do is you can view fleet composition from, I believe, fleet and wing, and possibly squad, but definitely fleet and wing. And what this lets you do is see who's in your fleet and what they're in. So you can see I'm in a capsule, Kissmeter is in an Eris. This is the bit at the start of the fleet where the FCs are going, can you please get out of your praxis 20 jumps away from MJ and def going back to MJ? You know, they'll call out specific people. Kissmeter is telling me it is on squad as well, so thanks for that. And you can also get a good idea of what's in your fleet. So this is a quite useful screen here. It's just going to show you the number of ships you've got. This screen isn't automatic, so you will need to refresh it, and you just close it, and you'll just go back to it, show fleet composition, and you'll be able to just click it there, or you can click refresh. But I don't trust this refresh button, so I usually just manually open it up again. This here, copy external fleet link, looks like it does nothing. You click it and it does absolutely nothing. But if we click it into here, it gives you an ESI point, and this is what we use to honk fleets. We won't go too much into the details about that, but basically we put it into our website, and it tells the website everyone who's in the fleet at that point in time when I click the button and what ship they're in, and that allows our Circle website to figure out what your honks are. So we'll go into a little bit more detail about a bit about movement quickly. So if you've attended the Newbie 101, you will have been fleet walked by fleet commanders and stuff, but you might never have seen it, how it works for yourself. This is very quickly figurable out, so it's not going to be a huge lesson to people. But if we right click, we can warp ring relative, and that's because my warp is still set for relative. Yeah, it's a great ship, isn't it? If we go back to formations, we can put it as a point, and then it'll change. So it does actually give you an idea of what you're about to do, which is really useful. And then you can warp them at obviously your different ranges. It's just the same as the normal warps, but that's how you can do that. We will actually get into an FCing ship and teach you a few little tricks about how to kind of get on top of your enemy. I'm exempt still. That's a good point. I don't think I'm going to actually warp anywhere, but I'll unexempt myself. This is good. What I'm doing here, guys, is I'm reiterating points. It's a good teaching tool. Going back to the fleet warp exempt and exempting again. Let's find an FCing ship. There you go. I refuse to do so, Kismia.
I understand.
I'm also kind of done with the fleet window, I think. Hopefully. Maybe. I've kind of covered what I wanted to cover with it. The very basics of how to start a fleet, how to put yourself in the right positions. Also, if you're in charge of a fleet, you can... This is one thing I've not covered, which is important. Up here, you can do free move. So set free move or set free move off. I would highly recommend to have set free move off, because if you have free move on and you don't have all of these commander positions filled up with characters, anyone in your fleet can join the commander position and then they can fleet warp your fleet, which you don't want. So free move off unless you absolutely trust everyone on your fleet, or there's a particular reason you need it off so people can move quickly, is the one. Rodney, hopefully he can teach you to run a fleet every day. Is there a radial menu for FC with fleet warp? You'd have to ask someone who uses the radial menu. I don't even know how to. Anyone know how to use the radial menu? Oh, here we go.
Hold down and left click on something, and the radial menu will pop up.
No. I think. I don't look like there's a fleet warp option. No. So we're going to look a little bit at the probe window now. So we're in MJ, and the Ansiblex is actually we can't scan the Ansiblex. There's a Synesis over there, right? So I want to get that Synesis. How am I going to do that? He's docked because he's evil. Who's not docked? Who's just chilling? Who I can actually scan. Maybe we'll go over to the Tatara and we will warp on top of the Aeon because he's not going to move. So we're going to imagine, for the sake of the lesson, that this Aeon is just in open space and we can't get to him quickly and we want to get right on top of him. So we're going to launch our combat probes, and then what we're going to do is we know he's with us, right? We can see him. So we go right down, and we're going to do current formation. Oh, sorry. We're going to go pinpoint formation first, then current formation on ship, and then we go down and we press analyze. We want to look at our filters here and see what we can see. So it's going to show me deployables, cosmic signatures, and ships, and I want to see ships really. And now we know he's in an Aeon, so we're going to look Aeon, and we know he's 1,290 something away. so we can just warp straight to him. If there was lots of ships here, you have to use these search tabs and get good at learning them. This is one of the things, like combat probing quickly is one of the things that can be a bit daunting. But if you're trying to do on-grid combat probing, you go there, you go there, you go minimum, and you analyze, and you will hit things. Like, the way combat probing works is when it finishes, so if we press analyze again, so it's not where the ship is now, it's not where the ship is now, it's not where the ship is now, it's where the ship is as it finishes. So right now, that's where it's combat probed. So if somebody was flying away from us, that's when it would give us the pinpoint. And if we were hunting, what we could do is we could save the location quickly, and then maybe he's moving further, or maybe he goes cloaked, and then we're going to be able to warp to wherever he was. We've got that saved, yeah? Alternatively, if we save it and we warp away from this grid and we go somewhere else, and he then comes back to the same point, we've got that saved. So saving bookmarks is a good instinct to do as an FC. Rodney loves a bookmark. If you've ever watched Rodney's stream and you can see his bookmarks, they're everywhere. And you know, you can use bookmarks massively to your advantage because you're gaining more of a tactical edge the more bookmarks you have. The next little tip we're going to learn is you're on a gate, and this is not specifically for FCing. Let's just do this. Let's get the probes back in. We're going to launch the probes. We're going to do that again. And then all our probes are here, and what should happen is one or two of them should land near us. Fingers crossed. I think just the one here. So this time we've just got the 147. If we go into the probe window, I think you can just collapse this ball right down. Ooh. So I've moved it by accident there, so we're just going to refocus it right on top of us. And then I'm pressing control, and then I'm scrolling my wheel down until they're basically all on top of me in a big sphere. This is not the best way to scan accurately, but just bigger than this is. So that pinpoint formation they give you is good, but you can actually get a slightly better read if you zoom it slightly in, and you can save that as your settings. So now, if we look, we've got one there, we've got one over here, and what we've just done is what you've got to imagine is I've just jumped into a system, and I know the goons are about to come at me, or whatever, bad guys are about to come at me, and I don't want to be on this gate, but I do want to be on grid. If I launch my probes and I've got enough time to do this, I can actually, so you can't warp to a core probe scanner, can you? But what you can do is you can save the location of it. That's not my probe scanner either, that's somebody else's, but somebody's being very useful. Yeah, so Skizmeet is doing the same trick. I think, was that mine up there? No. How have you got yours to actually appear in the right places?
You have to scroll down really far.
Oh, I've just not gone quite far enough. Yeah, mine
set
is
a
still.
box, and then you save the formation.
Yeah, and then yeah. So what Kismet has got here? Let's see if I can actually do it, because it'd be good. It'll be a good learning point. That's as far as I can get. Oh no, it wasn't. I was alt clicking. Depends on the ship. No, I can get way closer. Look at this. This should work. I'm gonna have loads of probes on the scan. But what we're using this for is to give ourselves an immediate tactical position. Didn't work again. I don't think. But anyway, we'll use Kismet as the example. You'll have to mess with that yourself, and then we can warp our fleet over there. And now we're on a nice little safe spot on grid. We can now look back at our gate and decide whether we want to take the fight from safety. Not getting rushed in fights is quite a big learning curve for a lot of newer FCs. A lot of newer FCs will go, well, I guess we're just fighting now because I don't have any options. Give yourself that breathing space, give yourself these kind of tactical points, and you'll get a lot more options. That's probably enough about just general fleet stuff. You know how to warp around, you know how to make yourself some quick safe spots if you want to, and you know how to combat probe on grid review. Yeah, go on, Kismet.
Pull your probes as soon as you make your rook marks.
Yes, yeah, it will be very easy for the other team to grab them. That's the other thing. If you're warping to bookmarks that you think the enemy has, don't warp to them at 0. Warp to them a little bit of range, and make new bookmarks as you're in warp, so that you just got loads more options, constantly making more bookmarks. We'll talk very, very quickly about the kind of how you go through as a PvP FC, because that's what I know most about. the other groups have people who will help you with their FCing. So horde mining standing, people who do horde mining standing, talk to them. If you want to do particular styles of PvP fleets, talk to those styled FCs. You know, Rodney's fleets are different than Muskie's fleets, for example. Both are good fleets. My fleets are very different than both of those fleets because we just fly differently and we're more comfortable in different situations. So have a chat to people, but we'll try and show you the basics of the very entry level stuff. So the very, very first thing that we kind of say is if you want to just have kind of a chilled out fun fleet, the NBI Cormorant is actually a decent damage platform and it's got quite a bit of range. So you can kind of go hunting with it. If you've got a few more experienced players who are going to be your interceptors to go off and tackle ratting ships, or if you've got bubblers who know what they're doing, they can maybe do a bubble camp on a gate in enemy space. You can then use the damage of the cormorants to stay at a healthy range from your target and shoot into them, and they also can load closer range ammo and do a fairly decent amount of damage. So if you catch something big and you've got enough cormorants, you probably can kill it. 30 or 40 cormorants will in close range damage be able to get through battleships and things like that if you're not dealing with anything else. The other one is just the kind of smaller frigate stuff and the more advanced stuff. So you'll see a lot of FCs move from cormorants into things like harpies, basically tougher, longer range, faster versions of cormorants. Or maybe they'll go into the more kind of brawly mode, which is you might go into your I've got some thrashers here, which I think, bit of bad language on that one, terrible naming system. They're autocannons. These are really high damage, but these are a lot more. If you misjudge the engagement and you get caught by the other FC, you might be losing a few of your thrashers, but if you get it right, you're going to kill things nice and quick. But yeah, so cormorants are the big one we advise. Getting your own flavor is really important. We've seen new player FCs come in with Telwars, it works. We've seen people come in with Alguses, it works. We've seen people come in with Rifters, and it works. It's just making your own win condition and figuring out how to operate within that. You're going to give yourself more options the more damage you've got. Maybe you'll give yourselves more options the more maneuverability you've got. You've got to kind of decide what you want to achieve and what you're going to use for that. The cheaper the ship, the more likely you are for newer players to join you. Not necessarily the same applies to older players. Older players maybe see cheaper doctrines and say, oh, maybe I don't want to, but you will get a stalwart of older players who just love going out on those small ship fleets and really embrace those people. A big part of FCing well is forming your little cadre, your little team. Some FCs go about it by having a theme, so you've got like the blue squadron theme. Other FCs will just have had years of experience together, so your players in very long established corporations, like my corporation's Booster, they've been playing together for ages, so they'll just be people there who played the game for a long time, so they'll just be very comfortable in doing those roles. You've got people who are just part of Horde who you'll see all the time who do those support roles, and just acknowledge them, you know, talk with them while you're on your fleet and use them. I'm going to read the chat for a second. Yeah, so let's talk about broadcasts actually. That's a good one. So you'll often see your FC broadcasting things, and I do this by muscle memory, so I sometimes forget exactly what I want to do. Oh, yeah, I'm flabbergasted now. Wow, can't even remember how to broadcast. I was sure it was this. Yeah.
Excellent.
Do you know when I'm trying to explain this to someone, I always press F, and I don't know why. But yeah, so I've broadcasted target there with an X. It's literally hold X and click. I do my fleet commands by right clicking because I am an old man scrub. So if I want to go to something, I'll right click warp to. These can be key binded as well. They are key binded by default. Adding little tricks like this is what I was talking about right at the start, about some FCs will be very mechanically gifted, and it's basically if you get good at all these shortcuts, you are speaking as things are happening immediately, and that speeds up the pace of your fleet, and you are going to be you've got an advantage against the other guy who's trying to deal with you, who's slightly slower, which is me typically. So typically I'll know that if I'm fighting a fleet who's really moving around quick, I'll start trying to think, right, well actually maybe we're going to sit still a bit more and we're going to try and just block what they want to do rather than try and catch them, because they might be too quick for me. Acknowledging stuff like that as an FC is super important, and acknowledging like strengths and weaknesses quickly and figuring out how you're going to make that win condition work for you. Compared to exploration of signatures, how easy is it to scan down a person? So scanning down players is obviously a competitive thing, in that the faster you can do it, the better you can do it, the more of an advantage you're going to gain. But saying that, big ships like battleships or capital ships are quite easy to scan down. Like if we go to our scan window here, launch our probes, we're gonna, so this is 4AU. I have maximum scanning skills on this character, and this is with no implants. You can put implants in, and this ship has no scanning bonuses. So this is kind of the typical for an experienced FC in a normal fleet is going to have this kind of level of scanning. So that's 4AU. So 4AU directly on top of ships will grab you all of the capital ships and nearly the battleships. And you can see that the Black Ops ships are bigger, and I think, yeah, no. Oh, that's just because I've got it set. Bear with me. Let's do this. So yeah, so the Black Ops ships are slightly easier, it seems, the Redeemers in particular, and that'll just be a fitting thing. So they'll be fit with certain modules that'll maybe make them bigger, and maybe I've not hit straight on with some of them. You can see here, then we go down to the battle cruisers. They're not much harder to scan. So if we were to go down to a 2AU, I would probably catch everything.
You're still super focused, so yeah, recenter and to 1AU.
Yeah, no, I'm doing it on purpose. I'm just, the question was how hard is it to scan things. I'm just trying to say that not that hard. Like, if you know where they're going to be, you just do as Kissmeter says. You just bang your probes really close to them, on top of them if you're on grid. But say if I was hunting someone, I could throw a 4. If I knew that maybe my scout said, oh, I've seen a carrier and he's near the unidentified wormhole, but he's not on it. So I could just throw a 4AU scan in this direction, and I'd probably hit him hard enough that I'd either get him on the first scan or the second, which is quite useful. And that's more to do with hunting than it is to do with FCing. So if you're an FC and you're struggling with your combat probing, go on a fleet or go solo hunting and practice is basically it. Learn player behaviors, learn kind of how to figure out where they're likely to be, and then you want to drop your probes and try and get them like that. Typically though, combat probing is only really useful if your enemy is off-grid and a moron and doesn't look for combat probes and doesn't align out, then you might catch him. But typically the fact that ships are warping into their grid gives them enough time, because they're usually aligned to just click warp and then they're gone. Or if you're on grid, that's when it's super useful. And you know, if you keep combat probing someone and you're in a fast doctrine like Harpies or something like that, Scram Harpies, it's just pressure. Like, it's possible to avoid Scram Harpies for a long time, but if you slow down for a second and you stay on grid, then you don't. And forcing somebody off grid means that you then can kind of control what's going on. So you force them off the grid, and then you can maybe leave little cloaked up traps on the gates with bubblers, and then do that kind of hijinks. This is all things that we just try and figure out on the fly, and it's lots of practice and fun and experience. And that's kind of fun thing about FCing, is you really do get a sandbox environment to fight someone, and the fights don't generally tend to go very similar. They tend to have a lot of variety depending on mistakes, basically depending on the mistakes that each side makes. If both sides come into fights and just go at each other, it's usually just who can shoot the other ships the fastest and who's got the maths of how much damage and health their fleets have got. That's usually how it works out. Sometimes target calling makes a bit of a difference, but generally it's all kind of decided as the fight starts. Those moving around, those kind of getting the calls right, even at the really high strategic level. So you'll see these big tie-dye fleets, and you'll see a Goon Swarm fleet warp in from one side, and then maybe the Initiative fleet warps in from the other, and they're technically both in gun range of our fleets, but maybe all of our fleets move to the left and the Initiative are out of range, or maybe one of their fleets gets it wrong or gets bubbled and they're out of range. It's that kind of mistakes strategically can really swing those big flights, and that's in fights that are going at 10% tie-dye and people have got like 10 minutes to make the decision about where they warp and things like that. And it's kind of it's a very anxious thing, because you hit warp fleet and you kind of hope that you've warped to the right spot, and then you're stuck in tie-dye for 6 hours, which is no fun at all. Let's read a few more. Yeah, so Gonzo saying, when I run it, so this is, I think this is a Kismia's Twitch account, but yeah, when you run a Tech 3 destroyer, for instance, about 10 seconds to get on top of someone, the optimal is you can run like Tech 3 cruisers who are cloaked up on grid, and you've got maximum scanning bonuses and yeah, all that kind of crazy stuff, and then you get really fast, really accurate results. So we'll talk a little bit more about basic fleet comps SS. One of the bigger ones that the kind of medium tier FCs are doing at the moment is the faction cruisers. Specifically, the Execa Navy issue right now is quite hot because it can achieve 2 things with the sniper fit, and if you go with the blaster fit, it's just really high damage blasters. So you can maybe take like 10-15 Execa Navy issues out, and you're doing considerable damage for a ship that can tank relatively well at the same time. The one you'll see, like Mist will come into our space with like 20 ENIs, and they're not like an existential threat. They're not going to do anything crazy, but they could catch a paladin. They can deal with standing fleet very well, that kind of thing. And that's kind of, you're either going to be hunting and jabbing in and grabbing things and being like clever, or you bring a fleet that can just deal with the typical response from your enemy, and you just sit in their face and you just camp their like regular routes and force them to respond to you to get the fight. They're kind of the 2 main tactics people use. You'll see that with the Blue Squadron fleets. They're basically forcing a fight, and then Rodney uses that with his fleets, and he takes advantage of it with the high maneuverability, high damage fleets, and comes in and shoots things. A huge just general point for Horde is, because we're open and because we really want people to be FCing, is just come and talk to us. It can be quite daunting, and you know, you have to put yourself out there, you have to be talking, and people are guaranteed to not enjoy your fleet. Some people will, some people won't. That's fine. You've got to kind of brush it off. You just talk to the FC team. We're quite supportive, I would say, and they'll either backseat you, so they'll come on your fleet and you know, sit in the command channel with you or whatever, or maybe they'll just be quiet in the normal channel and you can talk to them after the fleet and they'll just let you do it. But yeah, like just having a go is it really. Like even a fleet of Harpies is maximum going to be like 500 mil, the whole fleet. So people, and for each player it's going to be like 50 to 60 mil max. People don't mind that. Like anyone apart from maybe the day 1 newbies, and even the day 1 newbies are going to be earning like 8 million, 6 million ticks in a Vexor. They're, you know, people can generally afford to go and play the game they've bought to play. Yes, we would definitely take a complete utter loss of a friendly fleet as long as you learn something and had fun doing it. Like last night I took 6 people out to 1DQ, which is the Goon Swarm staging, and we were just in Wolves, and we killed a single Venture, and we were playing in commerce with Wolves, with Goons on grid for like an hour, and that was enjoyable to us. It's not necessarily about winning or losing. It was more just about, we were practicing our flying and our shot calling and all that, and just getting out there and doing is going to give you so much more experience. The pattern of behaviors, if you want to become like, if you're some people will already know that they want to become a good FC, like an FC who does lead big fleets, and just, it's like anything with a community. It's very similar to Twitch streaming, and it's why my Twitch streams have got like 1 viewer. You have to be consistent, and you have to just keep going and be positive. And the FCs who've been consistent and enjoy their fleets and enjoy what they're doing, and I think that's the key thing really. I mean, some people might come across as a bit negative, but they're clearly enjoying what they're doing. They're the ones who gain a community, and when they ping, people show up, and that's kind of how you do it. The ways to achieve that, as I said earlier, varied. We had a bit of a theme of everyone was doing like a themed fleet, and now it's just really Blue Squad that does that. Some of the other ones as well, but that's one way. Before that we had Mist who used to do that, and then you've got kind of people who run consistent doctrines. Like Clavo's maybe a bit inconsistent with his times that he's on, but he runs regular fleets, so he just run a lot of fleets, and he typically always runs those fast kind of high damage fleets that a lot of fun. Zigham's similar. Typically you'll run like a good high damage fleet that'll go and hunt people and get a lot of frags and come back. Typically if you see my fleets, they might be like bashing fleets, which some people enjoy, and you do sometimes get fights, but not super exciting. Or if I'm doing home defense, it'll just be the typical home defense stuff of trying to catch people usually running away from us, because we usually don't go for the fight unless we're going to have a good fight or be able to deal with them. Does anyone have any questions? We've gone about 40 minutes now, and I feel like I've covered the basics. If you want specifics, please do reach out. So like fits for command ships and stuff like that, they're not secrets. If you go and look at battle reports and you look at the obvious command ships, you'll find one with combat probes. That's probably the FC ship. Or if you just know the names of FCs, you can see their ship fits and see what they were doing. And we can tell you ship fits, you know, that work well with certain compositions. You don't have to be a composition maker. I'm not at all. Like most of my fits, somebody has said this is a good fit to fly, and I've kind of looked at it and figured out how it works and used it that way. What roles do you feel that newbies should fly when fleets are pinged? That's like the constant question, isn't it? I mean, if you're not the FC, because this is to try and get people to FC, but if you're not the FC, then ask the FC what's going on. Our new player ships are free handouts, so if you lose them, just ask for another one, and a lot of them are really useful. It depends on what you want to do in the fleet. Our newbie tackle can be quite influential, but there's a whole art form to getting to a target and applying your tackle without being exploded beforehand, because you're very easy to explode. And then the electronic warfare is the other big option. And then the logistics is the final one. Logistics is always good. Electronic warfare is nearly always good, and tackle is pretty much always pretty good, because a wave of tackle, even at the start of the fight, if you all go in and die, you know, they have to deal with that. That's a problem for them. The E-War, I say, is sometimes not so useful. It just depends because of what E-War does. So target painters, for example, you can only really apply 2 or 3 target painters before a target is completely target painted to hell, and it won't gain any more from it. So we don't need tons of them. And some fleets won't need any of them. Like harpies, you're not going to speed up the lock speed of a harpy. You're not going to speed up how accurate it is. It's just doesn't need a target painter. Things that always affect things, your jammers will always have some effect. There's a bit of a dice roll, especially with skills. As your skills get better, your dice roll gets stronger, but there's a good chance that you might get a jam, and that can be, you know, you're taking out a ship for a little bit. And then you've got the damps who always apply to people, and they're very situational. So if you're fighting at long range, damps are going to cut that range right down. So as a new FC, you want to be thinking, what's my win condition? Am I a long range composition where my Morluses can lock and damp people, which is roughly about 80 to 100 kilometers? That's like their maximum, I think. Might be a bit longer for the newbies. If you are, then Morluses are a great choice, because a lot of the enemy fleet, if your Morluses are spreading out those dampness at range, a lot of the enemy fleet might not even be able to lock you, which just invalidates them completely. Fim saying in the chat, he's a big fan of the Morlus. He'd love to fly the Griffin more, but the fact you need to colour coordinate most of the time, don't know what the enemies bring in, prevents good Griffin gameplay, which is very true. What he means is that the jams work better on certain ships. So I'm flying a Kaldari Tech 2 ship. If we look at my attributes, you would want to use the blue jams against me, gravimetric jams, because that's where my sensor strength lies. And you'd want to get a jam ideally stronger than 16.8 to deal with me. I think with me, like, I personally started to fleet command faction warfare stuff when I first started the game, and we'd be going out in frigates and we'd just be having fun, and we had some arranged Tech 1 cruiser brawls, because back in the day the Tech 1 cruiser actually cost money. So we'd go out every like once a week and have a big brawl. And then I moved on to wormhole space, and we did again like 10 to 15 man, and we've moved up to like Tech 2 cruisers, and we kind of did brawls where it would be who can break the other person's logistics first, who can, you know, deal with the guardians repping each other. Then I moved into a wormhole where we did a lot more kind of ganking, a lot more kiting stuff, where we'd just be in very fast, very high damage ships, and we were just preying on people who didn't realize that that's what they were up against, and would fly at you and just die. It's skillful in brackets, because if you get caught, you're going to die and you're going to lose an expensive ship. But if you are aware of your surroundings and knowledgeable about the game, and there's enough of you to quickly kill things, then it's not so dangerous. And I mean, you've seen probably lots of fleets come into Horde space who are very overtuned, you might say, for the situation. Nowadays, I tend to like bringing a few accounts and having a few boosters and using like tackle fleets essentially for home defense stuff against the smaller fleets. I really enjoy that. I enjoy the kind of lining up the jumps and trying to jump on top of them and catch them off guard because they're not expecting it. And I quite enjoy the smaller SIG fleets that we do in the forward deployments, which is like maybe 30 people. I quite like helping out with those and sometimes leading them, and just, you know, because they're a lot more interactive. You know, everyone in fleet will be talking to you, and if they feel it necessary, and that's kind of nice to get a lot of feedback. I'm very much a feedback FC. I like people talking to me as long as it's short and concise and to the point. It's always good to have people saying, all right, I'm thinking this, and you know, we go, oh yeah, that's maybe a good idea, or maybe not quite now, I'm thinking of a different direction. No Vargas. For what? For home defense? Don't need, I mean, you can do Vargas, but I don't think they're necessary. Although I think it's Vargas every time, isn't it? Straight to Vargas. That's the meme. Just have a look here. The typical like FC boat is the Monitor, which I have one. And basically it's just a ship that is very difficult to kill and can maneuver with your fleet and has a really good lock range, so you can show stuff, and it's got a probe launcher so you can get probes out. But other than that, it doesn't really do much. Mine's got a mic warp drive and a boosh and a target painter, just so you can actually get on the kill mails. That's a really hard train because it requires loads of skills, so it's more of an endgame idea. Again, just direct message the FCs you like and fly the way you want to fly, and ask them for ideas of what to fly, because they'll know. You can see here it's got some difficult skills. You've got to have target management 5, you've got spaceship command 5. I think you've got to have the leadership 5. That's the big one. Leadership and wing command 5 take forever. So that bottlenecks a lot of people into getting to monitors, and monitors are not always the best choice. Yeah, I'm going to try and upload it as a video. It's a lot of basic stuff, but yeah, maybe just if you want to just skip, like, you can just kind of look through the video when it comes out. Because I'm going to put it as a video and I'm terrible at editing, I'm probably going to end the stream in a second. So make sure you ask your questions if you want to. If you could get started today, ping and grab 20 comms, where would you fly in space? That's a really good question, because that's not something we've addressed at all. If you were to head into Goon space, it would get you blobbed to Sol and Black. So I would say that Brave space is a good option. They come at you with sometimes appropriate fleets for what you've got, and they're keen to come at you, and they're keen to not just get into a big home defense doctrine and do that, especially against small stuff like Corms. I would say if you are in Corms and you're getting faced with a huge home defense fleet, is choose not to fight them. And the way to do that is to be very careful with the gates. Gates are incredibly dangerous for small fleets, because obviously that's the point where they know you have to go. So play with them a lot. If they're just blocking you and they're just like being toxic and not letting you actually get out of a system that has no activity, then that's, you're kind of stuck and you might just have to go a different way. But if you can get into a high activity system and you can keep doing smart things with your bubblers when they're not there, so you don't want to feed bubblers into them, but you want to pull their fleet away from where your bubblers are, and then get your bubblers to maybe go and put a drag bubble to either catch their fleet where you know it's going to go. So what you would maybe do is you'd maybe warp to the Keepstar grid in MJ, and then get your bubbler to go to a planet and say, wait until I say, and then you warp, and then you say, right, bubble now, and hopefully you catch a few of them in the bubble, and because you've warped first, you maybe land somewhere behind the bubble, right? So that they're not going to land on top of you with their tackle. The idea being that you can snipe a few of their tackle before they get bubble on you, and they're kind of all stuck for a second, and then you warp off. And that's a high difficulty thing to do, and it's a real challenge for new FCs, because you're going to be in cheap ships that can't, your window of opportunity is reduced, right? Because you're going to lose the straight fight, so you've got to be very good at making it not a fair fight. Does that make sense? But if you get really small numbers on your first fleets and you've got good connections to places like faction warfare, that can be a really good place to go and look for fights. If you're just in Horde, then you just follow our normal rules around shooting blues and stuff. But if you're in like, I wouldn't really, as the faction warfare lead, I wouldn't recommend we're going to go and do angel faction warfares, because you just limit yourself and you spend half the fleet getting people signed up to faction warfare, which takes forever. Unless you want to pre-ping it in the faction warfare sig, that's fine. Those people should be in the right place in theory. But yeah, I would still go to goon space and stuff. You can potentially go to like the fringes of goon space. So think about what happens in our space. So there's nearly always a gate camp in the low sec entrances, and every so often we go and respond to it. There's nearly always small gangs, and when they come close to MJ, the whole of standing fleet goes and smacks them, right? But if they stay like 7-8 jumps away from MJ, then standing fleet kind of can't be bothered, apart from maybe if there's nothing going on, then 2 or 3 people will go, and that's perfect. You want 2 or 3 people to come to your small fleet and try and deal with you, right? So it's just placing yourself geographically in smart positions, and that does require a little bit of figuring out where the Goonswarm Ansiblex network is, which you can see, I believe on the in-game map you can see the red Ansiblexes. I was trying to get this to work on my in-game map the other day and I couldn't figure out how, but you can do it. But yeah, I mean, you can see ours, but you can get it to show theirs, and they show up in red.
It's the
there you go. Yeah, you can see here. So layout, you can either have jump bridges access or all jump bridges. So if I was to do this and look at Delve, we can see that 1DQ's around here somewhere, I think. Around here? Yeah, 39p. Got this on the first clip the other day. This really shows how badly I know Delve, and I should know it really well. So it's not this back pocket, is it? Nope. Anyway, you would look at where 1DQ was, and then look at where their regional is. So this is fraternity space. Quirios, it's like Brave Fraternity. This is Brave Fraternity, and this is mainly the Delve boys, and then you've got Initiative up here. If you were to look and you wanted to piss around with Initiative, you can see they've got really good Ansiblex coverage in this bit, and then this bit it starts to get a bit spotty, so maybe you go in this kind of regional bit. That does kind of trap you into the Goonswarm space. And then in Goonswarm space you've got this lovely pocket here, which is difficult for them to get to, which is NPC space. So if you need like a get out, it's maybe go here, or maybe go to the southern part and go into period basis. These are the more soft targets, but there might be less targets, and your hunters might need to be better. Over here is another active period, and I know that we've withdrawn our main forces from cache, but there is a little bit of activity in cache, and there is a little bit of people doing like ADM work and trying to raise the system indexes and things like that. So there's a little bit of content here, but generally it's finding that balance. Low sec can be kind of an equalizer because you don't typically see massive fleets in low sec, and there are fights there to be had. So the faction warfare low spec space is an option. Use your Turner map. So if you go onto evescout.com, you can get Turner and Thera connections. Use those. Go to, if you want to find wormholes yourself, go to low sec near us and look in the low sec for very large connections. You can often find a very large connection straight into Delve. And then obviously you can do things like filament roams. You can go to make a specific ESS doctrine. You can do skyhook robbing these days, which often gets a reaction. So yeah, there's a lot of options actually for these kind of mid-sized fleets these days. Would there be any rule against arranging a fight with example E-Uni? No, there's no rules. So if you want to arrange a fight, that's absolutely fine. You can do that. My suggestion would be don't arrange a fight in MJ, because the second a large fleet starts to get towards us, you will get people forming for blobbing it. Even when I've like pinged the FC channels and being like, hey dudes, I'm going to have this fleet coming here. Don't do anything. You sometimes still get blobbed, and sometimes pre-arranged fights, if you publicize them, like I think that time I did tell the FC chat, obviously our enemies have got FC chats as well, and they like access to some of our intel and stuff, and they knew it was coming and they came as well, so it's kind of like which you don't really want for arranged fights. I know that when Alex started out, I don't want to speak for him, But when Alex started out, he had a lot of arranged fights versus Dracaris because they wanted a little bit of experience for their FC as well, which was, you know, Tech 1 Caracals versus Tech 1 Caracals kind of thing. And that's a good way to get some experience if you can find people who want to fight you. Stabber to steal, 1 Busher, 1 Dicta, 5 Hecates, bubble, wait for them to show up, warping. Yep, that's pretty much it. But yeah, you can do arranged fights. The only thing that you shouldn't be doing is you shouldn't be, you know, making friends with people and then them being like, oh, well, can you just, there's going to be a fight on this structure. Do you want to come and just third party and get involved? Because that is not, you're in a big nullsec alliance. You have to figure out whether that's something that is wanted, because what can happen is you can go with your like 30 caracals and go on third party, and then suddenly goons show up, and then suddenly, you know, our allies show up, and then suddenly we're all committed, and it escalates because we've involved a nullsec alliance, and it causes issues for probably your friends, to be honest. So it's not hugely, and also you're veering towards, are you using our alliance for your friendship? You know, you want our members to just be going out for a fun fight, or a fight to defend their assets, which is the alliance objectives. So it's called, kind of gets a bit murky very quickly. So I just avoid stuff like that. Yeah, but yeah, friendly fights. Like if people are like, we just gonna bring a load of battle cruisers, we're gonna bring a load of cruisers to you. You know, can we fight? Yeah, sure. Sometimes you have to do that. Like sometimes you'll go out with an ESS fleet and no one will show up, and you'll just have to be like, in local chat, be like, can you please get an FC to come and fight us, because it's boring. And we've done stuff against goons, this like stuff like just fun roams, like when we were actually deployed against each other, we had like Christmas fleets where we just take haulers, and you know, they do the same. We just take Tech 1 cruisers and just fight just for fun. Like sometimes we do just play the game for fun. So there's options out there. You kind of got to create the content for yourself though. People won't do a lot of that for you, and that's a lot of the effort. All right, I think I'm gonna, can I show Eve map on finding ratters? Yes, I will. So this is what I use to kind of figure out where there might be some ratters. My push to talk key is causing havoc. So you can see this is .lan, and then I've put NPC kills delta up here, and then you can see that a lot of the systems are white, and some are green, some are red. If they're green, it means there's been some ratting activity in the last little server ticks, last like 15 minutes. If they're white, it means there's a little bit, and if they're red, it means that there was a lot and now there's less. So this potentially can mean that there still is someone there. It's just that it's way less than it was. Sometimes I'll go to these places and there'll still be people there. And this is a good overview of Delve. So you've got, I know for a fact that I think there's a jump bridge from here to here, so they can cut you off really easy. So they've, you know, we've done the same, but they'll have jump bridges that go over there and there. So this is their staging, and you'll notice that near their staging, where they're safer, just like us with MJ, there's more rank. So you can go through 1DQ, go to N8, and you'll probably find some people out in space. Or you can maybe go down here where they've got less of a response and go and look for people. And you can see that up here there's not many people at all. Although the other day I killed someone here in an Ishtar randomly when I was hunting. So people do, you know, goons do rat in this area. It's not very safe for them because it's NPC space. These little tags here are stations, I think, NPC stations. So all this little pocket here is NPC, so we can put stuff in those stations and they can't stop us. So yeah, so that's generally how I hunt with the Delta. Get unblock origin. Nah, no, just don't click on the ads, it's fine. So yeah, that's what I do. The hunting and the fleet command stuff and the like planning stuff is a bit more of a like mid-tier skill, and I highly recommend you practice that and talk to other FCs about how they do it, because every FC is going to have different approaches to that. Some people will set traps, some people will use .land, some people will just go to systems that they know will piss off people and hit anti-blexes and things to piss people off and make a fight. Ads are a malware vector. Okay. What, so you can open a website, touch nothing, and then get malware just because you've opened the website? Like Dotlan and stuff? That's scary. I don't want any of that. Ugh. Well, my computer's probably full of malware then. What's this unblock origin? I've done it. I'm unblock origined. Wow, so much better. Oh, my internet skills are terrible, man. I got like scammed by like a fake poster. It's like, oh, to get this poster. I went on the website and it was, they did not send me a poster. Sent them like £10, didn't send me a poster. I was like, oh damn, gonna have to change things around. All right, guys. So yeah, so I'm gonna finish the stream because this is an hour long and that's gonna take me ages to upload anyway. Yeah, thank you for all coming. What's my graphic settings? High, apparently. The stream might not be reflecting that. And then I've got, I want to see turrets, but I don't really want to see too much else. So yeah. Because you can zoom in on a ship and figure out quickly if it's artillery or not, which is useful. Alright. No worries, man. If you just came in and you want to watch the rest of it, I am going to upload it to YouTube. Hopefully it was useful. It's a bit janky because it's the first time I've done it, and it's not. I like to write them down, and I didn't write it because I felt like I had an idea of how it would flow in my head, and I knew there would be a lot of things that came up, and I feel like about 50% of the chat was things that came up, so there was way more things that came up than I maybe forgot that I was going to talk about, or yeah. So writing it down is probably important. I might have a go at that. All right. Have a good day, guys. Talk to you soon.